Mount Vesuvius. In the year 79 AD, one of the most famous volcanic disasters in history occurred when Mount Vesuvius erupted near the city of Naples in southern Italy. At that time, several Roman towns were located around the volcano, including Pompeii, Herculaneum, Stabiae, and Aplantis. Thousands of people lived in these busy cities. On August 24, 79 AD, the volcano suddenly erupted with enormous force. A massive column of ash, gas, and volcanic rock shot high into the sky. Soon after, hot ash and pumice stones began falling over Pompeii. Many residents tried to escape, while others stayed inside their homes hoping the eruption would stop. Later, powerful pyroclastic flows, fast-moving clouds of extremely hot gas and volcanic debris, rushed down the mountain and buried the cities. Pompeii was covered under several meters of ash, while Herculaneum was buried under thick layers of volcanic mud and rock. It is estimated that around 16,000 people died in the disaster. The cities remained buried for centuries until archaeologists rediscovered Pompeii in the 18th century, revealing a remarkable snapshot of ancient Roman life. Mount Tambora. In April 1815, Mount Tambora, located on the island of Sumbawa in Indonesia, produced the most powerful volcanic eruption in recorded history. The eruption began on April 10, 1815, when the volcano exploded with enormous force, sending a massive cloud of ash and gas more than 40 kilometers into the atmosphere. The explosion was so powerful that it could be heard over 2,000 kilometers away, and ash fell across large parts of Indonesia. Entire villages near the volcano were destroyed by volcanic flows, falling debris, and intense heat. The eruption and the following ash clouds caused widespread devastation. It is estimated that about 10,000 people died immediately from the eruption and pyroclastic flows. In the months that followed, famine and disease, caused by destroyed crops and contaminated water, killed over 60,000 more people. The enormous amount of ash released into the atmosphere also affected the global climate. In 1816, the world experienced what became known as the Year Without a Summer, when unusually cold temperatures caused crop failures across Europe and North America. Krakatoa. In August 1883, the volcano Krakatoa, located in the Sunda Strait between the islands of Java and Sumatra in Indonesia, erupted in one of the most powerful volcanic explosions ever recorded. The eruption reached its peak on August 26 to 27, 1883. The volcano produced a series of massive explosions, with the largest blast being so loud that it was heard nearly 4,800 kilometers away in Australia and the Indian Ocean island of Rodriguez. The eruption sent enormous clouds of ash more than 25 kilometers into the sky. The explosion caused huge tsunamis, some reaching heights of over 30 meters, which struck nearby coastal towns and villages. These waves destroyed hundreds of settlements along the coasts of Java and Sumatra. The disaster killed more than 36,000 people, most of whom died in the powerful tsunamis that followed the eruption. The ash from Krakatoa spread around the world and created dramatic red sunsets for months afterward. The eruption remains one of the most famous volcanic disasters in history. Mount St. Helens. On May 18, 1980, Mount St. Helens, located in Washington State, United States, erupted in one of the most destructive volcanic events in North American history. The eruption was triggered by a powerful magnitude 5.1 earthquake that caused a massive landslide on the volcano's north side. Moments later, the volcano exploded with tremendous force. A huge blast of hot gas, ash, and rock shot sideways from the mountain at speeds of more than 300 miles per hour. The eruption destroyed forests, rivers, and everything in its path across more than 600 square kilometers of land. The explosion sent a giant ash cloud nearly 24 kilometers into the atmosphere. Ash fell across several U.S. states and even reached parts of Canada. The disaster killed 57 people, including scientists, photographers, and residents who were near the volcano. Thousands of animals also died, and entire forests were flattened. The eruption of Mount St. Helens became one of the most closely studied volcanic events in modern history. Nevado del Ruiz. On November 13, 1985, the volcano Nevado del Ruiz, located in the Andes Mountains of Colombia, erupted after months of increased volcanic activity. Although the eruption itself was relatively small compared to other historic eruptions, it triggered one of the deadliest volcanic disasters of the 20th century. The eruption melted large amounts of ice and snow that covered the volcano's summit. This created massive lahars, which are fast-moving flows of volcanic mud, water, and debris. These deadly mud flows rushed down the mountain and traveled through river valleys toward nearby towns. One of the hardest-hit places was the town of Armero, located about 74 kilometers from the volcano. During the night, the lahars buried the town under thick layers of mud and debris. Most residents had little time to escape. The disaster killed around 23,000 people, making it one of the worst volcanic tragedies in modern history. The Nevado del Ruiz eruption became a major lesson in disaster preparedness and early warning systems. Mount Pelée. On May 8, 1902, Mount Pelée, a volcano on the Caribbean island of Martinique, erupted and destroyed the nearby city of Saint-Pierre. At that time, Saint-Pierre was the island's largest city and an important economic center with about 30,000 residents. For weeks before the eruption, the volcano had shown warning signs such as ash clouds, small explosions, and earthquakes. However, many people remained in the city because local authorities believed the danger was limited. Early in the morning, the volcano suddenly produced a massive pyroclastic flow, a fast-moving cloud of extremely hot gas, ash, and volcanic debris. This deadly cloud rushed down the mountain at incredible speed and reached the city within minutes. The intense heat destroyed buildings and burned everything in its path. Almost the entire population of Saint-Pierre was killed. Only 2 people in the city survived, including a prisoner who was protected by the thick walls of his jail cell. The eruption became one of the deadliest volcanic disasters of the 20th century. Mount Pinatubo. On June 15, 1991, Mount Pinatubo, located on the island of Luzon in the Philippines, erupted in one of the largest volcanic explosions of the 20th century. Before the eruption, the volcano had been quiet for centuries, and many people living nearby did not realize the danger it posed. In the months leading up to the disaster, scientists detected earthquakes and rising magma beneath the volcano. Authorities ordered the evacuation of thousands of residents from nearby towns, which helped save many lives. When the eruption occurred, Mount Pinatubo sent a massive column of ash and gas about 35 kilometers into the atmosphere. Huge amounts of volcanic ash spread across large parts of the Philippines, collapsing roofs and destroying buildings. The eruption killed more than 800 people, many of whom died when heavy ash mixed with rain from a nearby typhoon and caused buildings to collapse. The eruption also released enormous amounts of sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere, which cooled global temperatures slightly for several years. Mount Unzen. In 1792, Mount Unzen, located near the city of Shimabara on the island of Kyushu, Japan, caused the deadliest volcanic disaster in Japanese history. The volcano had shown increased activity for months with earthquakes and small eruptions before the catastrophe occurred. On May 21, 1792, part of the nearby Mayuyama Dome collapsed after intense volcanic activity. This massive landslide fell into the Ariake Sea, creating a huge tsunami. The powerful waves quickly struck coastal towns and villages around Shimabara and nearby regions. Entire communities were destroyed as the water rushed inland. The combined effects of the landslide, volcanic activity, and tsunami killed around 15,000 people. Many victims died when the tsunami hit the coast just minutes after the collapse. This disaster remains one of the worst volcanic tragedies in Japan and showed how volcanic eruptions can trigger other deadly natural events such as landslides and tsunamis. Laki Eruption. In June 1783, the volcanic fissure known as Laki, located in southern Iceland, began one of the most destructive eruptions in history. Instead of a single volcanic explosion, the eruption continued for about 8 months, releasing enormous amounts of lava and toxic gases. The eruption produced more than 14 cubic kilometers of lava, covering large areas of farmland and destroying villages. At the same time, huge amounts of poisonous gases, including sulfur dioxide, spread across Iceland. These gases killed livestock and contaminated crops. As a result, about 20% of Iceland's population died due to famine and disease in the years following the eruption. The toxic volcanic haze also spread across Europe, causing severe air pollution and unusual weather conditions. The eruption is believed to have contributed to extreme climate problems and crop failures across Europe, affecting millions of people. The Laki eruption remains one of the most devastating volcanic events ever recorded because of its widespread environmental and human impact. Mount Kelud. On May 19, 1919, Mount Kelud, also spelled Kelut, located in East Java, Indonesia, erupted violently after months of volcanic activity. The volcano had a large crater lake at its summit, which played a major role in the disaster. During the eruption, hot volcanic material mixed with the water in the crater lake. This created powerful lahars, which are fast-moving flows of volcanic mud, water, and debris. These destructive mud flows rushed down the slopes of the volcano and flowed through nearby river valleys. The lahars quickly reached several villages and towns around the volcano. Houses, farms, and roads were buried under thick layers of mud and volcanic debris. Many residents had little time to escape the rapidly moving mud flows. The disaster killed about 5,000 people, making it one of the deadliest volcanic eruptions in Indonesian history. After the tragedy, engineers built drainage tunnels to reduce the water level in the crater lake and lower the risk of future deadly lahars. Mount Galunggung. In April 1982, Mount Galunggung, located in West Java, Indonesia, erupted after several decades of inactivity. The eruption produced massive clouds of volcanic ash that rose high into the atmosphere and spread across large parts of the region. Although the eruption did not cause extremely high casualties on the ground, it became famous because of the serious danger it created for aircraft flying near the volcano. Volcanic ash is extremely dangerous for jet engines because it can melt inside the engine and cause sudden failure. During the eruption, several commercial aircraft unknowingly flew through thick ash clouds. One famous incident involved a British Airways Boeing 747, which temporarily lost power in all four engines while flying through the ash cloud. Fortunately, the pilots managed to restart the engines and land safely in Jakarta. The eruption killed about 68 people and forced thousands of residents to evacuate nearby areas. The event led to major improvements in volcanic ash monitoring systems for aviation safety worldwide. Mount Merapi. In October 2010, Mount Merapi, located on the island of Java in Indonesia, produced one of its most powerful eruptions in decades. The volcano lies near the city of Yogyakarta, where hundreds of thousands of people live close to its slopes. Mount Merapi is known as one of the most active volcanoes in the world, and it erupts regularly. However, the 2010 eruption was far more powerful than usual. Beginning on October 26th, the volcano released massive explosions, lava flows, and dangerous pyroclastic flows, fast-moving clouds of extremely hot gas, ash, and volcanic debris. These deadly clouds rushed down the mountain and destroyed villages located on the slopes of the volcano. Thousands of homes, farms, and buildings were damaged or buried under ash and debris. The disaster killed about 353 people and forced more than 350,000 residents to evacuate from nearby areas. The eruption became one of the most destructive volcanic disasters in Indonesia in recent decades. Mount Ontake. On September 27, 2014, Mount Ontake, located between Nagano and Gifu prefectures in central Japan, suddenly erupted without much warning. The volcano is a popular hiking destination, and many tourists were climbing the mountain that day because it was a clear autumn weekend. At around 11:52 a.m. local time, the volcano suddenly exploded, sending large clouds of ash, rocks, and volcanic gas high into the sky. Huge amounts of volcanic debris quickly fell across the mountain slopes where hikers were present. The eruption created dangerous pyroclastic surges and ash clouds that covered trails, mountain huts, and nearby areas. Many hikers were caught by surprise and had little time to escape the falling rocks and thick ash. The disaster killed 63 people, making it Japan's deadliest volcanic disaster in nearly 90 years. The Mount Ontake eruption shocked the country because it happened suddenly with very limited warning signs, highlighting the unpredictable nature of volcanic eruptions. Eyjafjallajökull. In April 2010, the volcano Eyjafjallajökull, located in southern Iceland, erupted after several weeks of volcanic activity. Although the eruption itself was not extremely powerful compared to other historic eruptions, it had a huge global impact. When the volcano erupted, it sent a massive cloud of volcanic ash high into the atmosphere. Strong winds carried this ash across large parts of Europe, where it created serious arms danger for aircraft engines. Because volcanic ash can damage jet engines and cause them to fail, aviation authorities decided to close large sections of European airspace. As a result, more than 100,000 flights were canceled, affecting millions of passengers across the world. Although the eruption caused very few direct deaths, it became one of the most disruptive volcanic events in modern history. The eruption of Eyjafjallajökull showed how a volcanic event in a remote location could affect global transportation and international travel on a massive scale. Mount Vesuvius. On December 16, 1631, Mount Vesuvius, located near the city of Naples in southern Italy, erupted in one of the most destructive volcanic events in European history. For many years before the eruption, the volcano had been mostly quiet, which led many residents to believe it was no longer dangerous. The eruption began with powerful explosions that sent massive clouds of ash and gas high into the sky. Soon afterward, large pyroclastic flows and lava streams rushed down the slopes of the volcano. Hot ash and volcanic debris quickly destroyed villages and farms surrounding the mountain. Heavy ashfall caused buildings and houses to collapse in nearby towns. Rivers of mud and debris also flooded several areas, making escape extremely difficult for many residents. The disaster killed around 4,000 people and destroyed numerous villages around Naples and the Bay of Naples. Thousands of animals and large areas of farmland were also lost. The 1631 eruption reminded the region of the destructive power of Mount Vesuvius centuries after the famous Pompeii disaster.